for me.
All right. So I'll start whenever you guys want me to start.
I think we can go anytime.
Yeah, okay, cool. This won't take too long, even though with controllers you could spend an awful lot of time. But Brent, I know I introduced myself. Karen, I'm not sure if we talked. I am a licensed landscape architect, and I'm also a C27 contractor by trade. So when I do presentations, I like to sort of do a mix of things. We might let you see our face at the end, possibly. But I've got a combination of the PowerPoint and actually the product here in my office. So that way you'll get a better idea of the hardware. But I was going to ask you guys a couple questions first. Do you guys do much with 2-wire? Are you using that very much?
Sometimes
Sometimes.
we've done a couple projects. I've done more in my previous jobs, but I don't know, Karen, if you've worked with 2-wire at all.
No,
Okay.
not
Okay, that's, it's good to know, because every office is a little bit different on that. And, we're finding that more and more are switching over for various reasons, but,
Yeah.
and then of course the traditional wiring. You can see my screen okay?
Mhm.
Okay, so with our controllers, I'll give you an overview. I'm not going to show you all of them. There's quite a few. There's a lot of detail to each one. So there's the ESP-LX IVM. And we'll tell you in a little bit what that stands for, but that is our 2-wire, our newest 2-wire. And then there's the LX ME2, which is the traditional wiring, where you've got 2 wires going to a valve. And then IQ4, that's our software on the cloud. And that's actually free software. We don't charge any kind of monthly fee or anything like that, because that turns a lot of people off. So especially cities, public agencies, things like that.
So is that for like central, or is that more like ET software?
Yeah, it's actually both. It is central control. So you could have, 32 controllers and have all those communicating to each other and running on the cloud, and also providing, it crunches numbers to get to the ET. It's not just like your standard weather, but it will do 3 or 4 different types, because with weather stations and everything else, I sort of have to interpolate to make sure that the ET is going to be correct.
Okay, cool.
Okay.
Hey, sorry, I'm late. My meeting ran over.
That's what she said.
I figured.
No problem. Welcome. We're not going back either, so there you go. And I'll go ahead and, so this is PowerPoint, obviously, but then I'll show you some of the hardware for this also. You guys probably recognize that, but anyway, you didn't realize we had all these controllers like on one of your projects, but we do. And there's 4 or 5 different controllers there. They're going to be this similar to the ones that I showed you on that first slide. There's also battery operated one here in the middle, the gray one, and that one is also operated with Bluetooth, which is pretty new. And that just changes the game when you have to use those, or more often than not, it may not be spec'd, but it's something the contractor will use when they don't have power. So I see more and more of that.
Is that designed to go in the valve box? Like, is that a single station?
This can do, you can do it by a one station model, or you can go all the way up to 6.
Okay, so like a manifold.
Yes. So you can, there'll be 6 individual wires, and there'll also be wires for an interrupt in case you wanted to do like a simple moisture sensor or, a rain sensor.
Okay,
So it's, this one's come a long way. It's just, see if you can see that little black knob. Used to have like a suction cup to a transmitter. Transmitter was like $700. It was, it was a lot. But now, of course, you can just stand outside and program it like you program anything else, and you can just do it right off your phone. So it's pretty nice.
Cool.
The 9-volt one I don't talk about too much with landscape architects, and the reason is, these, if they're inside the box, which they'd be inside the valve box, the one on the right, you can actually, when you see a screen, it looks like it has value. So somebody may be more likely to steal that, vandalize that, than the one on the left. Because there's nothing on there. There's a lot going on, but nothing on the clock. This, we'll see how this goes sometimes, and tell me if it doesn't work out, but this is a video that explains how our IVM 2-wire works. It's IVM stands for Integrated Valve Module. And I'll show you guys this in the hardware too. But why this is a big deal is, one, nobody has it. We got this from our golf division, so it's been proven for about 12 years. Sometimes it takes a while before you adopt something even from your own company. So we did that, and it's a unique type of 2-wire that doesn't require decoders. So it's not what most have seen, and this is another reason that a lot are switching to this. I have my phone on too, just to see, because sometimes like YouTube's done all this fun stuff recently. So, this is quick.
Yeah, the controller on your old sprinkler system says it's working, but how do you really know the valves are functioning correctly? With 2-wire decoder systems, you never really know when the valves stop working because you only have one-way communication to the valves. And when there is an issue, how do you know whether it's the 2-wire device, wiring, connectors, or the solenoid? Introducing Rainbird's new Integrated Valve Module Controller, or IVM, with smart valve technology. With 2-way communication between our IVM smart valves and the IVM controller, you get confirmation from each valve that it's currently working properly. You can also see a history of valve health and any trends that predict future issues. It offers advanced diagnostics, so when your valves aren't working, you don't have to play guessing games. So, how does smart valve technology work? Built on 10 years of proven technology, we put an entire computer inside a valve. This powerful integrated valve module contains a computer chip with a CPU, memory, and even its own backup power supply. This IVM Sol device doesn't look that different from a normal solenoid and can replace any standard solenoid on all Rainbird commercial valves. Besides the technological innovations, our systems are designed to lower your installation costs. We reduced your wire splices by 50% compared to all other 2-wire systems. This saves you labor and material costs and the cost of troubleshooting wire shorts in the future. In addition, IVM works with our IQ4 cloud-based central control, so you can manage your irrigation system from anywhere, anytime. Plus, the IVM controller with IQ will alert you if something's wrong. Rainbird is a respected industry leader, and IVM with smart valve technology puts us and you on the innovative edge of.
Well, it can get a little salesy at the end there, but Did that for just a quick couple minutes, did that make sense? Because I'll show you the actual parts in a little bit.
I'm curious if it can be retrofitted onto an existing valve. Like
That would-
if we had a project where we go out there and we see there's Rainbird valves in the box. Could we?
Yeah. Typically, you can't do that. You could do it if you've already got 2-wire,
Right.
running to that box. And also we do have devices that will make it, a smart valve, just like this one. So even if it's a competitor's valve, so we can do that, but it's not a super easy retrofit. Usually the one with the traditional wiring has all the same capabilities for the most part. That's a more reasonable way to do that, a retrofit.
Cool.
Now I can show you that one, but got some good questions. All right, they went through that, so I'm just gonna skip over that. It just shows a standard 2-wire versus the IVM 2-wire, and you can see on the left, there's all those different connections and a decoder, and on the right, there's only 2. So that's where most of the problems happen. That's why we say reduces wire splices by 50%, but we find that most of the 2-wire errors are, just when they have to put additional splices on. So it just makes it a lot more complex. This is the ESP-LX IVM Pro. And I wanted to go over the detail on this, and then, like I said, I'll show you the actual unit, but this is 240 stations. It can do 10 master valves, 10 flow sensors, 8 weather sensors, 16 simu stations, which would be, it could run up to 16 valves at a time, but of course you'd have to have the hydraulics for that to run that many. But as you know, there's more and more small drip zones, so it can run those together. So that's actually pretty important deal. Then it also has 40 programs. A lot don't know this, but I do have some irrigation consultants that would not spec our controllers because we only had 4 programs. 4. And Rainbird's had it for years, like that was adequate. But the reality is a lot of people need like 10 or 20. They don't usually need 40 programs, but it allows you to do some individual programming, whether it's with the clock or it's with the cloud, either way.
Mark, could you expand on that a little bit? Because we don't, ever program controllers, to be honest. Like that all happens like sometimes after the project has completely left our hands.
Mm-hmm.
So can you just like talk through what that, like why you need more than one program? Is it seasonal? Is it just talk us through that.
Oh, on the programs?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The way I like to put it, and the way I think I learned it first was, at different residents that I've lived at or owned. And if you had in there normally, let's just say you had, I know people aren't doing turf so much, but if you had a turf zone, that would be one program. You want to be able to do everything separate from, let's say, your shrubs, and there's a drip. And then let's say you have pots, and it's a different kind of drip, maybe a different flow rate. So each program's going to have its own date, like water Monday, Wednesday, Friday for 10 minutes, whatever that is. So it allows you to isolate those, which makes it, you're going to have a much better project, especially when you're like, let's say you had shrubs on the east side and then you had shrubs on the west side against the wall. you probably would benefit from putting those on a separate program. Because they're gonna need.
Because you want to run some of them for longer for microclimate reasons.
Yeah, so it, normally you could just run individual valves, any of them, you could still do that. But what's nice about this is it basically allows them to group everything. And you're totally right about many times what happens is you may come up with your, call it typical watering schedule, or you're trying to meet in Willow, whatever that is. That's one thing, but then, like you're saying, really when it comes down to it and it gets to the field, what are they doing? Are they just using one? Possibly. You know, I see that a lot. Or are they using the IQ4 cloud? Any of those are possibilities. That's why the whole thing about training has become, you know, bigger and bigger. You know, otherwise you're not going to save any water, and now you get fines or whatever that is. So
Okay.
this, yeah, no, that's good. So then the ESP LX IBM, this is not the Pro. This is if you want less stations. So this is 60 stations, and then it has half the master valves and flow sensors. Weather station, almost all those are half the Sime stations. And you see this one only has 10 programs. So, you know, the theory behind that is you got less stations, most likely you're going to need less programs. So that one is just standard IBM. One thing I wanted to show you that I really liked, we have a Rainbird resources thing on our website. Everybody always talks about their website. Sometimes I get tired about hearing about websites because, you know, we've improved it, it's better, it's whatever. Well, we've actually done something where it's called Rainbird resources on the website. You can click on that and be able to go to every single product we have, every single detail we have, all on one page. So, and the landing page for any of those products. So, you know, we have 4,000 SKUs. So now not all those need details and not all those, you know, have to be on there, but what you typically would need is on there. So you don't have to search through the whole website. That was always my problem, even with Rainbird before, is that I'd have to search and just go to the battery operated controller, then the regular controller, you know, it becomes laborsome to do that. So, and I can always send you a link if you guys want that. And you know, our catalog is digital. We don't do hard copies anymore. We don't waste the paper. We don't, you know, plus you can't keep up with a hard copy. It's got a little ridiculous when you're producing 1 or 2 products per year. But it's a great resource because you can get there quickly and it's updated every day. So I have a link to that, but just what you want is more links. So you can see on the right side of this, it's actually a prototypical legend. So we started putting together legends that didn't just have the controller, that had all the other parts, including like flow sensors, you know, valves, because the valves have a different, call it solenoid, or that integrated valve module. So that's all within this legend. So we've started doing more of this, but if you're using like, you use LandFX.
Yeah.
Okay. I thought you did. I think you told me that before.
Mhm.
LandFX, most of that is already going to be on there. All I can tell you is we constantly work with them to improve legends and the ability for you to actually work through a controller and spec it yourself versus giving it to our controller guy, that the guru that can put together every legend, you know, known to man. But it's sort of nice to have that ability. You would think it's there, but it isn't. It takes some time. We have 1,600 products in LandFX. So it's a constant update. All right, this one doesn't show the actual controller. I'll still show you that, but this isn't, I'll just point out a couple items. There's the LXME. So we've had it's on the sort of top left there. I don't know, can you guys see my cursor?
Yeah,
Okay, sometimes that doesn't show. So the LXME or LXMEF, those are ones that we've had for quite some time. But the panel and everything within it just didn't have the capabilities that actually designers have been asking for. So we finally changed a bunch of them, and wherever these blue stars are is where it's been improved. So when you go down the list, you can see all the different things, but here's another thing with the programs again, it'll do 40 programs. Now this is all traditional wiring. So the LXME will go away. The LXME2 should stay a while. That's another thing that's interesting about controllers, which I'm sure you guys know, that if when you're making changes, we make sure that most of our changes are going to be backwards compatible. So it's really easy to put in a new panel or a new communication cartridge, whatever that is, which makes it easier. Otherwise, you're changing the designs all the time, and the contractor's like, you know, what are you guys doing? So, or they say that to us usually. So we'd be able to. Anyway, so it's got a lot of different items. Like I said, I'll show you that. This is another level. Now, I always think it's good to learn this, but it's not a one-day thing. I think it's good for, you know, landscape architects, irrigation consultants to know more about. This is the IQ for the free software. The guy up in the right-hand corner, he's like the mastermind of this whole thing. But you can see it's got the weather on the left-hand side. It's got the name of the project, happens to be, I think, where he lives. And then, you know, this is where you can do as many controllers as you want. You can sort of see the whole picture. You can do a dry run on this. There's so many things that you can do on this that, again, it'd be better to have it in snippets, but I think it goes back to what you said, Brent. I mean, how much are you going to use it? You know, probably going to be in the field more than anything. But you could build your own, like if you want to put together your MWello and you're putting all your scheduling together, you can actually do it on here. It's free to designers, so it's not like you had to buy our stuff to use this. So, and I think yes. So let me switch over. We shall see if we're seamless or not. Can you guys see the controller?
yeah.
Okay. It was the first time I couldn't see the controller because somebody's calling while the presentation's running.
Ugh.
Thanks a lot. It's all right. Got to be ready for those things. So my office is basically turned into a studio. You don't see the over this way, the green screen and all this stuff. But as you know, everything's changed a lot. So, and I appreciate you guys doing it this way. I think either way works good unless we have to touch water, you know. And Brent, I think I told you we could bring that in your office if you ever want to do that.
Yeah.
I also have a video of it if you don't want to do it. Okay, so if you guys can see this, okay. Does it show as full size?
I'm still seeing, if you're still sharing your screen, I think if you.
Yeah.
close that, then this will get bigger.
Also, if you double click, Brenna, that thing, it will increase it big. That's what I did.
Double
Oh,
click on the Scott video.
No, on the just on your Rainbird with your screen.
Oh, okay.
cool,
I see it full screen now.
cool. Oh, yeah.
I know. Well, I know, maybe stop share. Ta-da!
There we go.
Now I see everything and you guys, so. Yeah. Not that you're not good looking, but we have to change it. Exit.
So this is how does the faceplate of this one, like, is it different than the LXME2? Does this interface look different, or is it all kind of behind the panel that's different?
Yeah, I'll show you that and pull that out so you can see it. Sort of weird. I don't really like it going back and forth, but if you guys can see it, okay.
Mhm.
Okay. So I can show you on the panel sort of how that works, but first off, you'll see that usually the way we do our controllers, we just did something new recently, but we put the dial on the left and then we put, this is a backlit screen. And it's big letters, so you can see it outside or inside or in the dark, whatever that is. So this is nice. And then as far as all the different things on here in the blue, you can program your whole controller just by doing those 6 items. So it's sort of, it needs to be intuitive, because before everything was either digital or just dial. So this is a combination and this seems to work. So if I open this, and this panel will come off. So I need to see what you're saying a little bit. All right. So these are the same. There's another one behind and I'll show you that, but this is the IVM, and you can see how simple this is. This just has basically connections for 4 wires, and you can run like a total of 6 miles if you need to. And I know you guys do big projects, so
Yeah.
this would be a big advantage to that, because you could just put one controller. But if you had several, it would still work fine. And then there could be an antenna in here that could be internal or external. Internal if it's plastic, if it's metal, it's usually external like a dome. And then if you look here, this is the communication cartridge. In this case, this one's Ethernet 4G. And then it has a SIM card, just like your phone in there. And these are easily to come out, and these are really the most expensive part of the controller, is the communication, because if we're doing like a cellular, it goes from here to a cellular tower to the cloud, from the cloud back to the cellular tower to here. And that sounds like a long process, but you're talking like a minute or less usually to turn something on with your phone. So this is and this whole panel will come out now too, but since I don't want to throw it over, I think I'll just leave it. So that's the IVM Pro. Now, before I get to any other, and this time I really overdid it on controllers, but that's the way it is. So if I bring this over, this is about the IVM also. See what you can see. I think you can, I'm just seeing if you're seeing both, sort of. Okay. Now you can probably see.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is an IVM valve. I put this display together so you can see the difference between the integrated valve module and the standard solenoid with the standard decoder. So you can see how simple this is. Here's the 2-wire. And 2 wires mean that there's 2 wires, except they're in one sheath. That's how they're typically done. This comes up and in. So again, this is set up very similar to just a standard valve. And this comes together. So if you're speccing, this is one part number. That's a big deal too, because you can get a ridiculous amount of part numbers. On the other side, this is, you can see all the different splices here that it takes to do that. And again, that's usually where they have different issues. To me, like this, just the fact that just being a visual, this is good too for contractors. Maybe they haven't done this before, but they get to see it. And on your end, I think it's good because you can sit there and go, yeah, that is, one's complicated and one's not. So of course there's a little more to it, but any questions on the?
No, I guess I'm just noting that like, when we've done 2-wire, well, I don't think I did this necessarily on our 2-wire projects here, but like in the past, when I've been doing 2-wire, there's always been questions of like, should we do one decoder in each valve box? Should we do a multi-station decoder for each manifold? Like, what's the best thing? We're trying to save money, but we also want it to be simple. And that kind of seems to really just eliminate that whole question.
Yes, that's all of it. And we even have we have an LXD that has 200 stations, but it's the standard decoder. So what's already happening is I've seen it, like the legend will say LXD, and it's been a great product, but it has a decoder. So now they're just basically erasing, right, or replacing it with IVM.
Mm-hmm.
So that's really how quick it became the standard. The only reason this thing, not that you guys would care, but that it took so long to take off. We built this about 3 years ago, but when COVID hit, it sort of changed everything. So it's just finally starting up again. So this is I'm not gonna go into much detail because the detail is the same sort of as what we did on the PowerPoint. But if we open this one, you'll see it's a little different situation. The cartridge is the same, which is nice. But on here, this is modular. So you can do up to 48 stations. So there are, like, I'm working on a park right now in the city of Santa Rosa, and they're trying to retrofit. They got a lot to retrofit. It's a big mess. So once they saw this, it's like, oh, well, that's easy. That's just like standard wiring, which it is. And you could do, 12, 24, and so on, all the way to 48. But, again, there's not a lot in the box for what this does, because it's all happens in the panel. Obviously that's for all the electronics. So sometimes people end up thinking, well, okay, you're telling me about the cloud. That's fine. But is it like the controller won't work as well without the cloud? Not necessarily, but it is going to miss what you were saying, Brenna, about the ET information. That's what you'd be missing.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, it has a zillion other things, but that's the biggest. And everybody's different on the ET. Rainbird's a big believer in ET versus moisture. Not that moisture is a bad way to go. It's just, we know it works, so whether we've done Disney World, Disneyland, all those places, they're pretty picky, Yeah. Not that you're not, but whenever I say that, I've done training there where I've given training on drip, and those guys, they know their stuff. I usually learn something.
So like if we're using ET, I'm thinking about like California regulations. If we're using ET, would you recommend that we forego like a local weather sensor?
Oh, yeah. I would, only because Rainbird used to have ET called ET Manager.
Mhm.
So well, the way that worked or supposed to work is you put your zip code in, and then the zip code goes to the closest weather station, a CEMIS weather station.
Mhm.
I didn't know, but what some know is that all the CEMIS stations are maintained by two guys across California. So we had a lot of controllers that were not getting correct information or no information. So instead of getting the ET up in the mountains, we were getting the ET on the beach.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah. So then you go back to historical data. That's the only way you can go if that doesn't work. So what Rainbird did with this cloud thing is it literally has, it's got private stations like CEMIS stations. It's got all the different like weather services. Those are going to have information. And basically it's just crunching everything down to make a usable number for your zip code. I know I tried it like on my zip code, I usually like to try things, even though it's supposed to work, but I think it's still good to try stuff. That way I feel more confident, you know?
Yeah.
That's like trying your planning services, but you guys are too far down the line, so you don't have to worry about that anymore. I like your website, by the way. It was fun to look at.
Oh, thank you.
So this one, I'm going down the other direction, but this is just a 12 station. But if you're doing, I don't know if you guys ever do, attractive homes, or
Yeah.
you do some of those. Yeah.
We do some homes now and then. We do sometimes a small project.
So these are Wi-Fi. So you not only have the Wi-Fi portion, but you can also hook that up to a rain sensor. When we have a wireless rain sensor, the Wi-Fi thing is awesome. If you haven't used it, or if you guys ever want a controller, or if you got a place to put one, just let me know. And then you can try this out. But this does like 3, 6, 9, 12 station. I personally rather get the 12. That's just me. It's like, why do that for whatever the money is? It's not a big deal. And if I give it to you, it's free anyway. So that's the one. So then this is what's fun about somebody that makes, it's fun to get new products to show. No different than you guys working on new projects.
Mhm.
So the part that isn't fun is learning it. So, or learning it enough. What a lot don't understand is what you need to learn, or what you are learning, is that's the right amount of learning. You don't need to get into all the nitty gritty. You need to know overall what it does, how it works, why I should do that type of 2-wire, just like you hit. That's like hitting the nail right on the head. So this one, you guys are too young anyway, so it's not going to matter. But this is RC2. It's actually a faceless controller. So you don't see, there's no dials or anything. All there are 4 buttons here, and then 1 button for the status of the Wi-Fi stick. So this will work with, this is sort of where things we think are going. So if you had a whole big residential tract, they don't need the dials and stuff. All they need is their phone. So that's the way. I wouldn't have found that out until I started using the other one with the dial and everything. I never go to the clock. It's been 3 years. I haven't even touched it. It's not because I'm sophisticated. I also have it on my wife's phone. So if she wants to turn on the roses, then okay, be my guest. But it is nice that you can do that. So, but this only goes 8 stations. So this is really a, I don't want to say dumbed down unit, but it's, it's like you don't need a lot here when you've got everything on there. So this is to emulate an RC7, which Rainbird made like 30 some years ago. And it has, see the little picture? There's a picture in the background, and those are all pins. They were pens. So I don't know if that was like a joke or I don't know, but whatever. Looks like a wheel. Anyway, I have like 3 cameras, but I don't like, having to. You can see my office. Hopefully I cleaned it. So it's like, I don't like having a camera like literally on my face. So any questions? That's mainly, that covers a good portion of the controllers and how they work. And then it would just be, hey, if you get into any specific project, say, hey, how do you spec this out? This is what I have. So.
Mark, I feel like I'm like behind on my product knowledge on this, but like, what would you say now is kind of like a threshold, or like, it used to be like, oh, if it's less than some number of stations, then you're better off sticking with conventional wiring. If it's more than that, 2-wire. Like, do you have kind of a threshold? Is it like mostly price based at this point?
Yeah, it's funny because the way it used to be was 25, I think.
Yeah.
25 stations. Like that was sort of the cutoff. Some people said 30, whatever. The thing that makes it different now, which sort of messes up that whole station count, is when you use the IVM, it's different because you're actually going to cut out some labor, probably some decoder costs, so there's other things. And of course you have the expandability. So if you're doing a phase project or whatever, so if you put all those things together, I can't say it happens every time, but I had one, I know last week, and I didn't think he was going to do it. And he's just like, no, I just do the 2-wire. I'll do the IVM, because I don't want to mess with that stuff. I don't want the contractor to mess with that stuff.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay. Yeah. So your point is, it's well taken. You can do it by those numbers. But the thing is, you're using such a different type of a device, because just think about running. What if you had 240 stations?
Yeah.
240 wires plus a common. That's a lot.
It's a lot of wires. I always feel like I think about it like, if it's a lot of stations, if I need long runs, I'm going to do 2-wire. Or if I'm going to need to do a phase, like a future phase, then I'm definitely going to do 2-wire. But I sometimes, if it's like just a small, like if it's like a 10 station project,
right,
and it's kind of compact, I'm like, I'm not gonna necessarily go for it just because it doesn't seem necessary, but I'm not sure if that still is like, what would you recommend?
No, I would just say, if the comfort level and everything else is on a traditional wiring, or maybe it's a little bit less money, that's one of the reasons we came up with that LXME2, because it's traditional wiring, but it has all the programming that the IVM has. You can't do what you do with the valves. What I did one time, and I finally took it off the presentation because I don't know that people even like it or even understand, but it's like one of those, I took the 2-wire and I counted up how much copper was. I mean, the whole thing.
Yeah.
Vandalism. And I physically, quite some time ago, but I physically put all those wires like in an 1.5-inch pipe. It's like, try it, and then you're just like having to put Vaseline or whatever to get the thing. And it's just like, this is ridiculous. So I would have liked that. I didn't have it, but I would have liked that, So I would say, just like our park, we're going to existing parks. That's a perfect place to use 2-wire, because they're not going to run a new wire to every box. So you want to use, may I said it wrong, traditional wire. You want to use traditional wiring control for that. Because it's just, it's not worth it. The
You're not
wire,
gonna trench out the whole park.
yeah. Yep. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So
Okay.
it sounds like the scales are tipping more towards like, there's more and more projects where doing 2-wire makes sense.
Yeah, there are and there aren't. There are, like, I know some companies that, I know you guys do these, but that only do public agency work.
Mhm.
And I had one of them, they just said, hey, no reason to show me 2-wire because 100% of what all these guys call for, you know, is traditional wire, which means nobody's trying to teach them or anything.
Yeah,
There's gonna be a project or two that probably good, but you know what? That's probably not somebody I should call on, you know, because I don't know what to do with that. But when you talk about others, I see like I always like to survey across, you know, like Northern California and get an idea of, yes, is it gravitating? Yeah, somebody that did 5 last year, they're doing 10 2-wire this year.
yeah,
So I think that happens. Most of it, this controller, I think the controller is great, but it's really the IVM on top of the valve. I mean, it's
Yeah.
a smart valve. It's not, you don't think it has a CPU and battery backup and, you know, it stuffed a lot of stuff in there.
yeah, that's a nice feature just to be able to know if the valve is really operating without, I mean, probably helps diagnose problems because if you might have flow sensing, but it doesn't really help you figure out necessarily like which valve. Like
You're right. Yes.
Sometimes depending on how the schedule's set up, right?
Yes. Yeah. No, you're totally right. So, yeah, there's so much you can do. I mean, of course, we want you to put in all the bells and whistles, but from my end, you know, to me, being a designer, I just put in what you need.
Mhm.
And if it's something that's good enough, it's no different. Like if you remember you said about Bob Best, you know, if it's something with drip, I can tell you exactly which one I use, and there is nothing else I use, you know, everything, flow rate, exactly. You'll say, hey, that's not what I use, Mark. I prefer, you know, this. But
Yeah,
doesn't mean it's right. I mean, when you've done it so long, it's just like, hey, I've done drip for like, I don't know, 16 years or something. Should know something about drip. You can be the judge of that.
yeah,
You guys haven't seen my pyramid. The pyramid is really cool. I can't do that in my office though. But the pyramid is a great demo. It's well known across the US, you know, pyramid.
Sweet. That'd be fun to set up a time to see that.
Yeah, I know. I know you guys have a lot to do, but no, I appreciate you guys. I appreciate you taking the time and seriously, and I look forward to the next one that we got scheduled, whenever that is. So.
Yeah,
Is there anything on that Aggie Square that just came up, Brenna, that would help get Mark's opinion on? I mean, just thinking about, we don't have to talk about it. We can talk about it later, but that was
Yeah.
that was a goofy one.
that was goofy. That's a good point. Some of it was pretty like clear and
Do you do work for UC Davis, the Sacramento campus?
Yes. Yeah. It's not like I'm not doing a ton there, but we've had probably about 3 of us, you know, like a contractor account manager. Sometimes I'll come in to do, they were having trouble they're like, we don't know if your wireless rain sensor is going to work. I'm like, okay, what do you mean? And then they're like, well, there's a metal partition on the top of the building. I'm like, okay, well, why don't you walk up to the top of the building and I'll do the controller part.
yeah,
And then we put it, and then it's like, you know, you could see the number of bars in there. And that is a big thing too. That's one of the things I have to say with any kind of central control, when it has to do with getting like an AT&T, Verizon, you can have the right card and everything, but you can read right on that controller. It'll have literally like 10 bars. And if you only read one, probably need to do something like a different antenna, or that's why we have a guru. You know, and that's all the guy does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the one thing that came up, we got some comments from the university. And we were doing, I don't remember whose drip it was, we were just doing like standard inline drip. And they basically said like, no. They're concerned about the lifespan of it. And they're saying that they like to do like a bubbler at each plant, which is not my favorite way of going about it, because I don't see how they get good distribution uniformity that way. But I don't know, I'm wondering what, like, if you have worked with UC Davis at all, and like what your experience is with like what they will accept or what they like to do.
I could talk a little bit more in generalities, but specific to public agencies, like I would say there's a good portion, well, let's just say half, that do drip line. And they don't have any problem, and that's what they do. They know how to maintain it, everything else. But I see a good portion moving to doing either bubblers, or like we have something called SQ nozzle that has like a little spray, but it's water conserving, blah, blah, blah. It's considered like drip. So to me, it's like, you know, we have all the different products that they can buy whatever they want, right? You can spec whatever you want. I can talk till I'm blue in the face, but if we did have something like a training thing, because I've done these, then I would at least show them so they can make an educated decision, you know, because you know that the lifespan of that is forever. I mean, it has a long lifespan unless you want it to deteriorate, right? And if you bury it, it's going to last longer. If you stake it more often, you're going to do better because you're going to have less coming up to the surface, you know. So yeah, but no, have I done enough with them? Not right now. We're short like 2 people, so I've been doing all of it. So it's been, you know, that's why this is nice. So
Yeah.
well, more and more designers are remote anyway. That I know that's not going to change.
No.
I think it will a little bit, but for the most part, I don't know, half are going to remote. So it's been, so anyway, if they need any, you know, help, but we do have a contractor account manager that'll probably do some work with them. We're actually right now trying to hire, we won't hire anybody from your office, but trying to hire one person. So cover Sacramento and Central Valley and that kind of stuff. But I like to do is, you know, sometimes I've done, you guys use SurveyMonkey?
Yeah.
Yeah. I do a lot of that kind of stuff. Like I don't over spam or whatever, but I'll put SurveyMonkey out there and I get what the real deal is, you know, because a lot of times people just like, oh, this is sort of what it is. No, I can just send it out. I've got 1,500 in there. I mean, if I want to, I can just send it out and then get responses on all those people. You know, of course, I'm only going to get 30%, but that's higher than the national average. So I'm okay with it.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, no, I don't know. So what do you think about that? I mean, what do you think about if you already know drip line is going to do this and the emitters are going to last this long? What do you think about the fact 20 years from now, when they got to change their planting sometimes, and then they got to rip out their drip line versus doing it hardline pipe?
I mean, there's a lot of situations where we do drip. I would say that's like our default is to do inline drip for efficiency reasons. And, you know, a lot of the work that we do is in like the urban area where anything we do, you know, in the streetscape, there's existing trees. And so actually the less we can trench, the better. And so we tend to lean towards, even like when we're doing inline drip, the type of installation where you're using tubing for headers.
Right.
So that even that is on the surface.
Yeah, I hate that.
Yeah. I know.
I know, so you're saying, and that is a big piece of it. That's actually, we have 4 contract account managers. We try to keep pretty full staff with the people that work with the contractors, speak Spanish if they need to. So, and I try to get them, that's why I appreciate you giving me the okay, but I didn't get anybody because I waited too long. So, but I try to get them on. I've got them on a few of these so they understand from your perspective. To me, it's like, okay, well, you guys did all the right things. You designed the right stuff and everything else, but then you go out there and you're like, why is it like that? Why did they get paid maybe full price to put it on grade? You
Yeah.
know, it's stuff like that and the other part is, I know you're not always getting paid to go and do site supervision or observation. And I think that's a huge necessity. I used to do that with residential home, you know, like real high end.
Yeah.
Yeah, pages and pages, you know how you, but it's all that stuff. It comes to me back to training. And that's why I think there's a lot of stuff. We do more Spanish than we used to, but video, I like that because we can make that Spanish and we can do it. And, you know, I can show them in 6 minutes how to put in an entire system. And they can have, and it might be funny even, you know,
Mhm.
at least funny to me. So I don't know. All I say is, you know what, you're judged by the people. It's what the people think and the number of hits that you get. So I got that one. Bob Best does like that one. It's 20, it has 21,000 hits and it's on drip.
Wow.
So now that's over some time, but I didn't advertise it or anything. I just got tired of maybe what you see. I got tired of explaining how to do drip under turf.
Hmm.
So I did it from the beginning to the end, not just, you know, that's the other thing. A lot of times we just assume, oh, let's just do our little plan and our details. No, they probably need to know, you got to dig 4 inches down, you got to do this, you know.
Yeah.
It's not, I don't think it's your guys' job to do that stuff, honestly, but
We have to kind of assume that the people who are going to install it know what they're doing.
yeah. And sometimes on that, I know you can't always do this, but I can tell you, like from my guy Ed in Sacramento, he, you know, I totally trust him. Of course, so he's going to push Rainbird if you spec something else, but I can't help that. But I know I trust him to say, like, I know these 3 large contractors that would probably be good referral because they always do good work, you know.
Mhm.
I don't know. I don't have that much time to visit with, I visit some with contractors, but only when they are desperate.
Yeah. Yeah.
They don't know anything. I don't want to say that, but you know, sometimes they don't know. It's like, oh, what's the fittings challenge? I've never heard of that. I'm like, oh, have you ever done the QF challenge? You know?
Yeah.
Then have some prizes. So
Nice.
anyway, but no, I think all that stuff is good. It's good conversation. I'll let you figure it out. So.
Yeah. Well,
You
cool.
have a team? You have a whole team right there. I see them. There's a.
Yeah, there we go. Cool.
like
I gotta jump onto another call. But thanks, Mark, for taking the time today to meet with us and keep us up to date.
No, thank you. We covered a lot more. So next time we should be able to do it in like 30 minutes or less.
Maybe if I don't ask as many questions, that'll help.
No, the questions are good because then I sort of know where you're coming from.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
But that must be Nob Hill in the back.
Oh, behind me?
Yeah.
Yep.
It is, huh?
It's the topo. I don't even remember what it was called anymore.
Peak
Anyway, yeah.
experience.
Peak Experience. Yes. Thank you. Yeah.
Perfect timing, man. Came in so fast. All right, I'll let you guys go. Thank you very much.
Thanks,
Have a
Mark.
good
Talk to you
year.
later.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.